A young Vinyl Scratch was searching in the attic of her house. Actually, to say that she was searching would be inaccurate. That would imply that she had some specific focus. Really, she was just wandering around having fun, getting into all the things she was normally not allowed to get into. Her striped blue mane was quickly becoming a dark shade of gray, as a result of all the dust she was kicking up. And her white coat was smudged black with some old paint she had knocked over. To be fair, however, she had come into the attic looking for something in particular. The problem was, she had quickly forgotten what it was. Not that this troubled her in the least. So long as she was in the attic anyways, she would have fun. And anyway, if she saw it, she would recognize it. Thankfully, this occurred before she was able to break anything. Upon pulling a top off of a vaguely rectangular shape, she uncovered a curious device. A square gray box with several buttons, knobs, dials, and a pointy thingy on the side of the top. Centered in the middle of it was some kind of round, black platform covered in grooves. The music box. She'd found it. Of course, she didn't know how it worked. She only had vague memories of it from when she was younger. All she knew was that it played music. She pursued it carefully. After a few moments of this, she noticed some cables running out of one side of it.
Aha! It was powered by electricity.
She took the one that she recognized as the power cable and dragged it over to the first wall socket she saw. Unfortunately, it was just a little too short, and she was forced to push the music box over towards the wall. It was surprisingly heavy, and she was required to push with all the strength her little legs could offer. But she succeeded. She plugged in the music box. Nothing happened. The little filly was not at all dissuaded, however. She trotted over to the box and examined it. There was a couple other cables, but she ignored them as she did not recognize them, and assumed they were for plugging into other kinds of power outlets. Maybe the ones in Canterlot. Everything was cooler in Canterlot. Every pony knew that. Next, she looked at the buttons. They were kind of on an angle, so she got up on the platform and looked at them. She hadn't quite learned how to read yet, so their specific functions remained largely a mystery to her. Still, the biggest button there was obviously the button to press, simply because it was the biggest and was therefore important. She pressed it. The platform under her began moving, nearly causing her to fall forwards. She squeaked in surprise, leaned back to compensate, overcompensated, and fell back on her haunches on the platform. The platform continued to move, and she moved with it, round and round in a circle. At first, she was protruded by the spinning motion, but soon came to enjoy it, making a game of seeing how far she could lean without falling off.
Hello, Vinyl. I came over to see you. Your mother said you'd be up here. But what are you doing?
Vinyl was so surprised that she lost her balance and was sent tumbling off the music box. She slid to a halt on her back, and when she looked up, she found herself looking into the dark eyes of the greatest friend in Equestria.
Tavi, you've gotta try this!
Octavia flipped her carefully groomed black mane over her shoulder and looked on with disdain as her friend rolled to an upright position.
I don't really find the idea of injuring myself appealing,
she said finally, once Vinyl had gotten to her hooves.
Oh, that's only 'cause you surprised me.
The little filly unicorn led her earth pony friend over to the music box.
Also, that's not what a turntable is supposed to be used for.
Oh, is that what it's called?
Vinyl pressed the button again, and the spinning stopped.
I always thought it was just a music box.
That's something entirely different,
said Octavia, slightly miffed by her friend's indifference.
Please don't do it again. You'll break it. Or yourself.
Lighten up, Tavi,
replied the little unicorn cheerfully, before sitting back down and pressing the button. Octavia watched nervously. chewing a bit of her dark hair in anxiety. Despite her worries, however, Vinyl did not fall off. As she listened to the happy giggles, she had to admit, it did look fun.
Alright, I'll try it.
Here, let me just get off.
Vinyl tried to lean off gently, but was still sent tumbling into a stack of boxes.
Of course, you couldn't have asked me to turn it off.
This was more fun. Here, get on.
She trotted over and turned off the turntable again. Octavia nervously stepped onto the machine, half expecting her friend to turn it on while she was mid-step, just for fun. However, the turntable remained still. Finally, she was able to sit back on her haunches, feeling somewhat insecure.
Alright, I'm ready.
Setting her jaw and preparing for the ride, Vinyl pressed the button. However, she managed to accidentally brush one of the other dials while she did so. The turntable hummed to life and began spinning faster than before. Octavia was completely unprepared and found herself shrieking as she was whirled about.
Turn it off, turn it off, turn it off!
Vinyl panicked and slammed her hoof down on the button. The turntable suddenly stopped. However, Octavia kept moving due to inertia. She was thrown practically halfway across the room, stopping only because she hit an old wardrobe. The impact caused the ancient doors to burst open, releasing a large wad of antique clothes. The little gray filly was quickly buried under them.
Tommy!
Vinyl ran over. She dug into the pile worriedly, tossing away shirts and dresses in her haste to find her friend. Finally, she uncovered the little black-haired head. Octavia coughed, sneezed, and finally opened her eyes, looking up into Vinyl's anxious gaze. She smiled and began giggling uncontrollably. Soon, they were both laughing out loud, their sides bursting from the force of their laughter. They wheeled away the rest of that afternoon, and many more. Even when they'd figured out how to make it play music, their favorite activity was always spinning on top of it. Many years later, when Vinyl had her own custom turntables, she would recall this memory fondly when starting them up. Her love of music began on that day, and, by extension, so had Octavia's. They had gone their own separate ways in the end, but neither had ever forgotten where everything started. They had gotten too big to spin on the turntables anymore, but they would always have the memory.